and I don't have any independent confirmation of this, that Muhammad Ali sold some of his rights of publicity for many, many millions of dollars to an investor who now has the right to do merchandising and advertising using his name and likeness. So why isn't it a transferable property right if somebody else is doing it?
Well, the courts determined that that right of publicity is so closely tied to identity that they are essentially the same thing. Now, what I think is important and what we really need to look at is what is he doing to use that identity and what is happening to those profits? Because to me, it is utterly reprehensible that he's using his notoriety in the context that he's using it. So he's signing autographs and using jerseys and helmets and things, but he's doing that in the context of at slasher conventions and horror conventions. And really, to me, that is profiting from the notoriety associated with these homicides. And that's what I find utterly reprehensible.
And I agree with you 100%. Why is it that he's slipping through the cracks in terms of the finances? Why can't the courts say, hey, any money you make has to go to the Goldmans except for the NFL pension?
Well, he's working very hard to move around and jump between the laws to make sure that his lifestyle is secure. And one of the things that we talked about earlier is that specific pension, which is protected in California, and that's what gives him some income that cannot be attached. It's no mistake or an accident that he ended up living in Florida, because in Florida, regardless of the size of his home, if it's his primary residence, it cannot be attached to satisfy a civil judgment. Now, what I think that the Golden family should do is restructure their lawsuit and focus more on exactly what he's doing is generating profits from his notoriety, because that's the real issue. He himself admits through his attorneys that he's only making a couple of $1,000s. That couple of $1,000s, I don't care if it's 50 cents, that needs to go back to the victims. Every single penny that he earns and generates outside of his primary residence, which is protected in Florida, and outside of that pension, which is protected in California, everything else needs to be funneled directly back to those victims, and they have the right to be asserting themselves in court to demand payment.